Welcome back to the Floyd Memorial Library podcast, where you'll find information on what's going on the North Fork of Long Island. We'll be focusing on issues and opportunities going on in the community, as well as people and stories from the present and the past. I'm your host, Christopher Bianchi, and today our guest is Chris North. He graduated from Greenport High School and has been involved in the community with civic duties, and he also has a business called Chris North Associates Graphics, Inc. He's the Chief Executive Officer, and he's also on other committees, including the Police Advisory Committee for Southold Town since 2020, and is currently committee chairman. He is also on the Greenport Housing Authority Board since 2018. And we discuss his time going to school here, as well as his college years and being involved in the community and how he got interested in politics and civics. So I hope you enjoy episode 8 with Chris North. Thank you for coming on to the podcast today.
You're welcome.
So when did you come to Greenport?
I could say in 2007, I was in 7th grade, and I've been here since ever then. I've been out here for about 20 years going on. I've been here.
And tell me about your parents. Where are they from?
My mom is originally from Riverhead, and my dad, he's from Riverhead as well. I've been coming out here always since I was 5 years old, so the North Fork has always been, I could say, home to me and to my mom, basically. Riverhead, so everybody says it's the North Fork. She hit Riverhead, it's like, hey, you live out in the North Fork, basically, or the East End.
Yeah, I think that's true. Some people might try to say east of Riverhead, but I still think it's still considered the.
I think once you get off the LIE, I say you're on the East End, you're on the North Fork, basically.
Yeah.
And then if you go the other side, it's the South Fork, basically.
Mm-hmm.
When I originally moved out here, it was a ghost town. Everything closed up at 5 o'clock, and I'm like, coming from the west end of Long Island, I'm like, that's not normal. Not used to that. And then I got used to that, and over the years, living out here for 20 years, it's changed. Time has changed. Doors are staying open late because population has changed out here. So it's over the years, it has changed out here.
And you said, what year of schooling did you start out here?
I went to Greenport High School. The school that is one school district. I didn't realize that when I was first moved out here. I was so used to going to different school districts. But when I moved out to Greenport, they're like, oh, you're going to stay in the same grade from 7th to 12th. But if you were out here from kindergarten, you were going to stay in the same school. I'm like, how does that work? I was like, okay.
And it's all the same. It's the same building, too. Yeah. You don't even move to a different.
All you do is go up maybe an extra stair or the next. And I said, I got used to that. But then certain periods, so like, oh, you got to deal with little kids after 9 o'clock. It's like, okay, this is a little fun, a little treacherous, trying to get to class on time. But I said, you know what, you got to, when I started to have my little sister Christina, but she's big now, she's in college, and we used to see each other at lunchtime. She'd come over and hug me, and I got used to that. I was like, this is actually good. You get to see your family, and you get to see people that are related to you, and you get to talk with them during lunch period. And it's a great opportunity, man. That's the difference moving out on the North Fork and living out here in Greenport, especially, even with all the school districts. You get to know all the kids. Mm-hmm. Being 4 years of ROTC, you got to know all the kids, got to know all the teachers, and you get to know people in the community, honestly. Mm-hmm. And everybody cares about each other. And been out here for a very long time, and I can say, look, your neighbor's always checking up on you. They say, hey, what are you doing? Or they're calling you up or texting you on Facebook, hey, you heard about this issue that's going on. So I could say living on the North Fork is a great thing, basically. It's a community-based community.
And you said initially it probably was an adjustment going to school at the Greenport High School, but overall, was it a good experience?
It was a great experience, and great teachers, and great, and they're great school district. I could say if you want your kids to get a very good education, you don't want a big classroom, you come to Greenport, honestly. I had a class of 41 kids, and our largest class, maybe it was 20 kids in a class.
Mm.
And it was actually good because some people would have a class before you, we would help each other out, and that's just the community so that we can
Mm-hmm.
help each other pass, basically. Nobody wanted to be left behind and stay behind the next extra grade or 12th grade. We all help each other out, basically.
Mm.
And we all stay connected still on Facebook, Instagram, even though we might not live together, like all in the same community. But some do come home, and the ones that do come home, we try to connect and get together, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the community that's been built around in Greenport and around East Marion, Navituk, all the Norfolk area. Because we all know each other. Like, we might play basketball. Like, I was the recorder for varsity. I go to a Navituk game. We know each other from Navituk. We know people from Southall. And that's just the community, basically.
Mm.
And I was 4 years of ROTC, and that's where we kind of met each other. If I see Major somewhere in the street, or I see NC Turner, like one of those
Mm-hmm.
drill instructors, we all know each other. We speak to each other in the grocery store. Even like the former supervisor, Scott Russell. In 11th grade, I had job shadow day. First time meeting the town supervisor, we talked and got to know him. And that's the opportunity I got to be on government and town government, an opportunity to serve. Anytime I see him in the supermarket, hey, Supervisor Scott Russell, but now it's former Supervisor Scott Russell. Or if I see Al Krupski, former legislator, but now our town supervisor, it's that type of community base
Mm-hmm.
where your local officials live in the community, they serve in your community, even your police department. They might live in Greenport, Southall, but you see them, they say hello, they say hi,
Mm-hmm.
and they care, basically.
And who would you say, while you were finishing up high school or into your early college days,
I
what
can
was
say between my mom and Mr. Gunter really pushed me to get where I am today, as a former student of Greenport School and a college student that went to Suffolk Community College and got an associate's degree in graphic design. And it's an opportunity where I was glad I got that degree, where I have my own business. I'm a successful business owner. I have also a bachelor's degree in leadership and ministry. Right now, I took some time off from school. I was going to go pursue my master's in leadership and ministry, but I said, you know what, I'm going to take some time off and focus on working and running my own business, basically,
Mm-hmm.
and what I do in the community and serve.
And how did you get interested in graphic design?
So I took a class in high school called mostly art classes and photo photography class, and really doing the old way of developing photos before the digital age. You actually filled the film in the dark room. Actually, you took the camera thing, and actually that was the nice way I got to really
Yes.
learn the old-fashioned way. Even the games got dirty, and I was like, okay, that's cool, basically. So that was the first introduction into graphic design. And then I took 2 years at BOCES for a business certification. And I learned how to do flyers, and I got kind of introduced to Photoshop and Adobe. And then some people say, oh, get a Mac computer. And so I learned how to use a Mac from Suffolk, and I never switched back then. I have all Mac products, all Mac computers. I love Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop, web design. I know how to design websites, and I love doing all the work I do for my business. And a lot of the local clients I have from the North Fork, and I appreciate all of them, from East Marion Association to I have the Rotary Club. I do the Southall and Greenport Rotary Club, both for their the Lobster Fest. I'm the one that designed their website for them. I do their data pressing, all their ticket sales. I help them out and set them up for a website. Basically, that's what I do as an owner. And if you have an existing website, I kind of look at your existing website and say, hey, maybe it's too much information. Let's downsize this website so it's more friendly usually, because what I've learned as a graphic designer, most people are going to spend 2 to 3 minutes on a website. That's it. It's too much information. It's too combined. Too much. I'm going to say, let's downsize this, and I'll come in and help.
And you also, when you were at Suffolk Community College, you also got involved with student government. How did that happen?
So I with that became involved because I was involved with public transportation. It was an issue, and I said, you know what? And student government came to me and said, hey, can you join student government and be the student representative in regards to transportation? So I became the student representative in regards to transportation issues, because I've learned that living on the North Fork, public transportation is an issue. And so I sat down with the county legislators and talked about a survey and got the college involved. And I developed a committee that still is going on today when I left. Is a committee where all the campuses come together. There's a student representative from each campus, from Eastern, Grant, Ammerman. They meet once a month or once a year, and they talk about the issues. And as that committee was developed, and I developed the transportation coordinator, I was a college-wide coordinator, and then I became the student trustee. My last term that was done in, I can't even remember, but I could say 2016, 2017, around that time, I was a student trustee, so I was representing 26,000 students of all the campuses.
Wow.
And and with my role, I had opportunities to meet the governor, former governor Andrew Cuomo, lieutenant governor. At this time now, she is the governor, Hochul.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to meet the big people, Charles Hasty, and got to meet student representatives and students on the policy side of the board of the trustees, because we are the association where students pay fees. So I was the director of association where students pay activities fees and get to know all the campuses. And I was downtown Riverhead, the Coney building. And to this day, I love that place because it's where they bake food, and the students actually bake that food, and they make the food. And I was an active student trustee. And that's the point of being you're the student's voice on the board, basically.
And how did you feel taking on that role? Was it kind of, at first, this is a big opportunity or a lot of work because it's all Suffolk County campuses?
Yeah, it was an opportunity where I said, you know what, I can serve the student voices, and I can also deal with the issues that I have as a student and deal with public transportation, and to make sure that that issue doesn't leave.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a problem, because before I became student trustee, I got the college vice president of student affairs and a couple other college officials to ride the bus with me around to go every campus.
Oh, wow.
From my house to Eastern to Ammerman, and try to get the grant on public transportation.
Mm.
And they realized that it was a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And they started to address it. And I got Darnell Tyson, Deputy Commissioner in Transportation and Public Works, to really adjust the schedule,
Mm-hmm.
to reimagine the transit system and what we have today. And it's getting better, but I'm still engaged and still involved with that issue, because it's an issue that I've learned. My generation, we don't like using cars. We want to use public transportation. We want to use the Long Island Railroad. And I'm starting to learn there's another side of it. It's not just public transportation. It's also the MTA. How do we increase that service to connect on the North Fork? When I first moved down here, there was one train a day. Let's go back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's 2 to 3 trains, but now we're trying to get it to where there's more trains. Because they're saying we're redeveloping Riverhead, the hub. And that's going to be the hub with a train station like Ronkonkoma. Let's have more trains coming from Riverhead. Maybe not all the way into Greenport, maybe Riverhead, but maybe sometimes to Greenport. Just trying to figure that out and talking with the MTA and saying, hey, let's increase the transportation. Because a lot of people that, if they live in Riverhead or if they live in the North Fork and they work in the city, they don't want to drive to North County. They just want to get on the train, go home from Greenport.
Yeah, because that just creates another thing you have to drive to and wait there, whereas it'd be nicer, even from Riverhead, or it would be really nice to get it out to Greenport.
Because that's what our generation wants to do. We don't want to drive. We want to go to the bars, the restaurants, the convenience stores, and we don't want to be in that and driving and polluting the air. And we want to be efficient.
And to just change a little bit, you also said you did a bachelor's degree in
leadership and management.
How did that come about?
So I felt it's a calling that you have through the Spirit, and I feel religion plays a big role in my life and who I am as a leader. It teaches you respect and honor, and to respect people and don't treat them in the right way, basically. So I have that degree and I use it a lot in many different things I do. And it's at my core, basically, who I am. I identify who the person I am. I respect people, who they are, and I care who they are. If I see someone hurting, like when I was serving in St. Peter's Church, I was involved with Morning Saving Program, involved with homeless shelters. So those are the opportunities where I love helping the community. I love helping people that are hurting. And ministry is an opportunity where you see someone hurting, it's there to help them, basically. And it's not there not to judge them, here to
Mm-hmm.
help them, basically. That's the main call when it comes to ministry.
Mm.
And when it comes to religion, it's not about judging people, it's about helping people and
Mm-hmm.
caring.
And I think in between your at Suffolk Community College and with the bachelor's, you also got involved in other
Yes.
programs and boards. How did you get more involved with the other civics and political?
So when it comes to, I could say I've served it was about 7 years of serving on the Anti-Bias Task Force.
Mm-hmm.
There was a vacancy that came on, and I was appointed to that committee. But before I got appointed to that committee, I was a Martin King Dreamer speaker, a young person, and I was still in high school. And then I met Supervisor Scott Russell, and at the time there was a vacancy at that committee. I was still in high school. I was going to be the youngest member on the committee, and I made a recommendation to bring synergy. I brought a resume, and that was not normal for the supervisor to get a recommendation on behalf of people, college professors, and a resume. And normal to get a resume, but not to get recommendations from people. I get a call from the supervisor's office and saying, "Hey, you're going to be on the Anti-Bias Task Force, and you'll be the first youngest member on the committee." And I was welcomed with open arms. I know about Shelby, Sonia Spar, and it was a great opportunity to serve on that committee. And what I brought is synergy. It's an opportunity where community and police and elected officials come together and talk about issues and what's going on, because Joyce Ford cases and all the cases, Trayvon Martin, Professor Banks, myself and Professor Banks, we brought it to the college first, then we brought it to the county. And he approached me and said, "Hey, I heard there's a vacancy on the Anti-Bias Task Force." And part of my recommendation letter, I said, I want to bring synergy to the North Fork. And that program has grown into being now where we don't just have our local department, we have the Sheriff's Office, the Suffolk County Hate Crime Unit. Because what we have learned, there are different departments within the East End. The East End of Southwold is patrolled by Southwold, but they request certain departments to come in, like the Hate Crime Unit, to come in when there are certain cases and matters. But it is handled first in-house, basically, by the chief of police. And it's a great opportunity where I've gotten to know Chief Martin Flatley and the police department. And it's been great to be part of that area. And then from there, I've been on the Southwold Town Police Advisory Committee. Been on that committee for at least going on for about 3 years, where we serve at the pleasure of the town board. We serve as an advisor. We don't advise the police department. We advise the town board on police budgeting, and to make sure that we have the amount of staff, and working with the police chief and on stuff like that. And that's our role, basically. You're an advisor to the police commissioners, because people don't realize that the town board are police commissioners. So they are commissioners. They are sewage commissioners. There are different roles of commissioners, but their main to the public. Sometimes people don't realize when you elect them, they are police commissioners. And so if you serve on the police advisory committee, you are an advisor to the town board as police commissioners. That is our role, basically. Our task comes from the supervisor or the town board as whole, as commissioner.
And when you were on the Southwold Town's Anti-Bias Task Force, what was something that you felt you brought to the board over the years?
So what I had brought to the police advisory committee is being more transparent to the community, being more to the open, basically. So when I brought back synergy pre-COVID, I brought in the former chairman, Jack Flattery, to be part of that conversation, because I felt that being that transparent and being part of the police advisory committee and working closely with the town board in regard to accreditation and all what's going on with Lexipol and Bill, and I think that's the importance, basically, that transparency of all the town committees that are there. And then when I was part of the implementation working group, the previous working group that dealt with revising our police department and all that, I was part of that committee, and that committee is still active. So that's great. It's a great way where the community can come together and be transparent. And that's what I want to see. And that's what everybody wants to see from the police department, is transparency. And I think that's important. Because to me, the reason why I brought synergy, I don't want to wait till something does happen. It's before something happens. So that if something does happen, we know how to deal with it. We know how to address it because it doesn't become a problem, basically.
And so, moving forward, what do you think are the biggest issues facing Greenport?
I could say for the village of Greenport and the entire area.
I guess for the North Fork too.
And the North Fork as well. I could say it's affordable housing and a little bit of dealing with traffic. Because what I would like to see is more affordability for young people. Because if we don't do something soon, our fire department, our police department, our volunteers, they're aging. And if we don't start to replace them, it's going to become a problem. So I feel that elected officials in any capacity needs to start thinking about the future. And I think the mayor of Greenport, he's doing a great job with the vision and having these vision meetings and talking about the code changes, affordable housing meeting tonight. Actually, after I leave here, I'm going to be heading there actually to find out what's going on because I serve on the housing Section 8 board of Greenport Village. And so we are that board is an administrative board where we oversee and help usher administrate the Section 8 program. And that's all our role is. And I feel that is something that we need to start to really think about, is that outside the skirts, the village has done what it's done, but it's now to think about what the town can do. And I think the community housing fund, the community housing plan really addresses that, like allowing each hamlet to do something. Mattatuck, Southwold, each hamlet, East Marion, to say, build something new community to address the need, the inventory of affordable housing or community housing, whatever you want to call it, basically. And I call it the community housing fund because the term affordable housing, some people get turned away. They always hear Section 8. That's not the case all the time, basically. So I think that what was built in Mattatuck, the cottages, were a great project. If we can do more of those, I think it would be great, basically. But I think for me, as young people, we need something to start off with. We need to find what is the median income that young people can afford to live out here in regards to having maybe student loan debt or maybe want to start a family. What can they start off with, basically? I think that is the importance that we need to start to think about is like, okay, how do we think, what is the median income? And that's the conversations that elected officials need to have, along with stakeholders and educators and people that have the degrees and say, okay, this is the median income for Suffolk, but this is the median income for the village of Greenport. This is the median income for Southwold, basically. And then finding the right jobs, basically, for people. Because the agriculture is there, we have the farming, we have the technology. So we have to really start to think, basically, to make sure that are we attracting the right talent out here based on the salary, basically. Because if we have a salary at a basic income, if it's not enough for someone to move out here, there's no reason for them to move out here. And that's another thing we have to really think about, but be very confident and balance the budget at the same time, basically.
And they might not be able to afford to live out here and they have to commute from further
west. And it's unfortunate, and that's what I don't want to see from the police department. I want to keep it the way it is. Local police department, live in our community, serving our community, serving our fire department. I want to make sure, and that's why I'm all for the STAR program for first responders, and that's what I'd like to see. First home buyers for first responders and affordable housing for them. To be taking care of them, our teachers, our police department, our teachers that serve in our community, basically. I want to see that go on, that fund and affordable housing fund be part of that, basically. But then there needs to be another bracket of government workers and people that live in the community, but maybe work maybe in Patchogue, but want to live out here on the North Fork, basically. There needs to be that bracket as well, basically. So there needs to be a mix, I call it, almost.
And then even like you said with the Mattatuck cottages, that's an example. How would it go with, because I saw there was something with a waiting list for one of them that it kind of like you do have opportunities where stuff comes up, but then there's a long waiting list. So
what I recommend to people is like, please get on the Southwold registry, the housing registry, because that allows the town to know the housing commission. They have a housing commission to know, okay, how many people are on the housing waiting list registry, and where is the flux of people? Well, we got a lot of people in Southwold. What can we do in Southport? We have a flux of people in Manitoba. So it kind of allows us to say, okay, there's a pool of people. Where can we build a project that can do? It might not deal with huge in debt, but it's a start basically. That's what I say. The cottages were a start, but now we need to build on that, and we need to continue to build.
And do you think there's room for trying to balance out? Because it seems like there's an extreme.
What I would like to see, and this is something that maybe the town can look into, start looking into the empty, vacated buildings, like the buildings in Southwold, the one by the train station, the one in Manitoba. See, is it feasible to renovate it into affordable apartments? Maybe it's not, but maybe find a private developer to come in and start to think outside the box. And that's what I think needs to happen. It's got to stop with the words and the stigma words, not in my backyard. That's got to stop, because if we don't, you want your grandkids, or if you got grandkids or family or kids that used to live out here, or graduated from high school or graduated from college, and say, oh, I want to move back at home. I got to move back in my mom's basement because there's nothing affordable. It was nice for you, but now you got to think about the next generation that's coming up. And I think dealing with the changes of code, building the accessible apartments on an attached to the house, I think those are great ways to where, if your mom lives here and your mom just needs the small little apartment, you take the big house. I think that is really a great way the town has done, basically. That has been a good incentive for the people, basically.
And do you think for housing in the future, should it be more mixed use or walkable instead of more sprawl?
I think it should be a mix of both. You could have a mixed use of house, but the most you want to do, and this is something important, and I say, you want to keep the character of the community. You don't want to turn a house into a 5-story house where it looks like had a character out of the whole street. You want to keep it in character. I think that's important. And you need to really pay attention to, and this is something that I'm hoping that the Village of Greenport and every elected official is paying attention to, is Mother Nature. I've watched in the last month or so, and even the last couple of days, it just rain and puddle just come out of nowhere. And the sea level rises, and that's something that I've been paying attention to. Maybe I'm not an environmentalist, but I'm going to listen to those people and say, maybe we shouldn't build there because of certain reasons. And that's something we need to start to think about. We wasn't thinking about that 10 years ago about, sea rise level? We're just going to build this with no thinking about it, because there was no thought about it, basically.
And do you think for attracting young people out here, like you said, they're making sure we have like the fire department, the police department, and government officials, but are there are service jobs and other jobs in the community?
You have to serve. You have the Norfolk dump. You have the sanitation. You have all the jobs out there. The jobs are there. It's just trying to find the places to live. And what I've seen what the farmers have done, they have workforce housing. I think that's another avenue that the town can, elected officials can put into, is workforce housing. Put a medium income threshold, basically. If you meet the max, okay, you meet the max, you can buy a house or home and start to build that credit up for them, or build that mortgage up for them so they can start to save. Build that type of program, basically, so that people can also work, but also save and also pay rent and also build their credit score up, basically, at the same time. Because I think there needs to be different. It can't. What I learned in government and serving in government, one can't fit all. Everything can't fit into one program. Can't do one thing. There needs to be multiple programs, and so you gotta and you got to spread that money out, basically. You can't just spend, I'm going to put bag of exit here. I'm just going to do firemen. No, you got to spread it out, basically. It's complicated, but it can be done, but it's got to be done feasible. So you might need to do a little bit of workforce housing, affordable housing, first responders, to build homes for them. So it's got to be a mix of both, basically. And I think if you do that, you start to really address the issues of affordable housing and start to really address those problems when it comes to young people graduating. Because some kids want to be welders and automotive because they don't want to go to college. And we need those people. We need the technicians, the ones behind the cars. And I was at Boise and I watched the kids working on the car with a computer. We need those welders and plumbers and HVAC people. We need those people. And I think that's something we also need to start to think about too. What is the minimum income for them to live somewhere? Can they afford to buy a home, or what can they afford to live in with their income they start off with?
And have you noticed for Greenport since COVID, there has been more people moving into the community from other areas? And
I do see that, and it's good, and it's great to see another another population come into Greenport Village and into the Greenport area, and they're kind, they're sweet. Because what happens is, they might stay at an hotel or a B&B for a week or a month or whatever, and they're like, I love it out here. And you do love it out here because the water's here, it's quiet, it's peaceful. So they start to put their retirement money away, and they say, you know what? I'm going to sell my brownstone in the city, and I'm moving out to the Greenport Village. And they really love it out here. And I've seen that during the pandemic. There was an exflow of a lot of the city people that used to live in Manhattan. And they're great people, very respectable people. And they want to get to know the community. And I love them because when they came out here, they started to get involved in the community. They wanted to be engaged. They voted in the village election. They wanted to save the movie theater. And I love now it's going to become an art theater. And I'm looking forward to being involved, engaged with that, and what I can do to help and to make sure that stays what it is. And I'm glad it's going to be saved, basically, not building into another hotel. I think that's another thing that we need to start to think about is as Greenport and the village and the North Fork is that, okay, how many more, I don't want to say we want the tourists out here, but we also need to start to think if we start to allow to build more hotels, that's another avenue where we're stopping to build affordable housing. We need to find that balance, basically. And that's why I say for me, there needs to be a balance. I'm fine with the B&Bs. If you want to do a business. But there also needs to be that balance as well of making sure that we have an inventory of affordable housing as well. I have no problem with people with the building with their rights. If they want to build on their land, it's okay. But we need to be very cautious on what we do when it comes to town selling property or doing anything when it comes to land, basically, is important. But people have their rights to build. But people need to be cautious of what to know your community, know the surrounding. Does the community really need this first? Maybe because I want to build it because I think they need it, but really think in your head, okay, maybe they don't need a hotel. Maybe they need affordable housing. But if I build this hotel, maybe I should put housing on the hotel around that surrounding area so I can house my workers. So I'm not adding to the crisis of affordable housing. I think that's an incentive that I would like to see for more. If more hotels are built on the North Fork or anywhere on the North Fork, it's more of an incentive to say, hey, maybe you can build workforce housing on your piece of property and land.
And do you think with new buildings that go up, they should try to keep in with character?
Yes.
Preserving so it doesn't just look all the same from other.
I don't want to see a mega hotel or something like in the city. I want to keep the character, and that's what I'm hoping for. I don't know what's going to happen with Sweet and Gold Roots, but I'm hoping it stays the character what it is. I don't want to. I have no. I have to read up more on the plans and the concept of what they want to do. I know they want to build a hotel, and there's a lot of pushback and back and forth, and I understand where the fire department's coming from, and it's all got to be addressed. But at the end of the day, what I'm hoping for is it stays the character what it is.
And then we talked about it a little bit, but you brought up traffic going into the future, and you talked about trains. And what do you think there's only the one bus, S92 out here?
Yeah.
And they have the winter schedule now, but it's not, it could be extended longer for people that might get out of work later and
Right now, the latest bus, to my knowledge, right now is like 9:30 at night, basically. So,
Okay.
so it has extended longer for the
Mhm.
winter schedule. The summer schedule, I don't know what time they might end. It might end 10 o'clock. It depends on traffic or whatever's going on. But it is extended later. So it's gotten better. And it's every 30, 15 minutes a bus is coming through. And it's gotten better. From what I used to get, when I still catch public transportation, it's gotten better. The connections are better. Where if you go take the bus from Greenport, get right into Riverhead, you make your 30-minute connection. You connect to the 62. You want to go to Route 58. You want to get to 58. You go to Brentwood train station. You're right there, that connection. So I can tell you it's gotten a lot better. The system is a lot better, and it's the reimagined system. There's still some kinks, but it's gotten a little bit better.
Compared to like 10 years ago.
Yeah, much better.
Okay.
When the 92 used to never run on Sundays, and I want to thank former county legislator Ed Romaine, now our county executive of Summit County. He's the one that fought for along with Jay Schneiderman for Sunday service. The 92 was the first route to have Sunday service. So we give kudos to our elected officials that fought for that and kept it going. And now every route on Summit County has Sunday service, 7 days a week. They run 7 days a week. And including holidays and Easter, Christmas, New Year's, they run 7 days a week now.
And how do you think the North Fork and particularly, all of the North Fork, how can they move forward with the Long Island Railroad and trying to make that connect? Like the South Fork has gotten more frequency. How can we?
I think what I really think, and this is something that has been brought up before, maybe not connecting more with the trains, but maybe doing the travel from Riverhead, because most of the people I've learned on the North Fork, what they want to do, they want to go to all of the wineries, they want to go to the venues, they want to go all here, everywhere to the wineries. So, to me, I think to deal with that, those people want to go to the wineries, have the train come in from Riverhead, have the trolley pick them up in Riverhead, and bring them to all the wineries. And then have a train back for them, 6, 7, 8, whatever time they need to get back, or have it periodically in the summer come back and forth. I think you'll deal with less traffic on the road, especially when it comes to the wineries. And that would alleviate some of the traffic. Because I know on the North Fork, especially if you take Sound Avenue, Summertown, Harvest Farm, a lot of people, it's like, it's a farm, basically, and their business. But I think you can address some of the traffic dealing with on the main road, Route 48, if you do the trolley. You bring that back to the North Fork, connecting them with the wineries, and that would be a nice attraction, basically. And also bringing back on the South Fork. Back in the day, maybe 8, 10 years ago, you had the South Forks Ferry that was the Hampton Jitney that went from Greenport to Sag Harbor. That was another connection where people didn't have to take the Shelton Island Ferry, the Sag Harbor Ferry, right back and forth. That's less traffic on the road, and people can take the boat. So there are many different avenues, but what it also comes down to, sometimes when everybody tells me it's cost effective. But you need to start to think, where can it be cost effective? When are these people coming out here? They're coming out here most of the time, July 4th, Labor Day weekend, through the summer months, June, July, August, September. By October, they're mostly going home. So if we schedule around that time, and that's where we know our peak seasoning, or we do, maybe with the B&Bs, there's an additional $5 revenue or fee. If you want to use a trolley to go around the North Fork to the wineries, an extra $10, basically, a fee. I think those are ways to alleviate some of the have some B&Bs buy into it, like as a revenue fee, basically.
That would alleviate congestion and possibly even parking, especially in Greenport.
Yeah.
So moving forward, what do you hope for the future of Greenport and the North Fork overall? What do you see down the line?
what I'm hoping for on the North Fork is that we have, in regards to technology, we have wind, we have solar, anything in regards to technology, because that's where it's going. AI is taking over. We have, it's the North Fork has to start to think about technology, and that's where we need to start to think about. We need to start to really what is our next revenue coming from? We still have the shipyards, we have the boatyards, we have the farming, but we need to tap into that technology area of the North. We haven't tapped into it as much as we are supposed to. And that might, I don't know, like me, I'm not for offshore winds off the shoreline. Me, I love my animals, I love the birds. I'm not for all that, basically. And I'm a big component no, and it's going to be a next big conversation is battery storage. I'm a big no because it's battery acid. It burns. This past year, we had a big fire in East Marion on the Causeway. The fire department couldn't put it out. Had to stay there for hours. So I'm a big no until they can figure it out how they can control that. I'm a big component no for battery storage for the North Fork.
And do you plan on running for any office in the near future?
I can say yes, and wherever the community wants me to serve, I will serve. It's not about me. It's not about my agenda. It's about the community and where I can help. And that's how I've always been. Where I serve on communities, a Section 8 board, I serve on the Sheriff Advisory Board, any community board I serve on. It's not about my agenda. It's about trying to be that voice for the community or that lesson voice of a young person. And that's what I want to bring to the table, is addressing what our needs are for the community. What can keep us here on the North Fork for the next 20, 30 years, or however long I live here on the North Fork. Because I want to live here for the rest of my life. And I want to be able to be sustainable to live here for the next generation. Whenever I have kids, they're able to stay here on the North Fork.
And is there anything else you want to add that we didn't cover?
No, I can say honestly, it's just I just want more people to be more engaged, more involved, and I'm hoping that the next generation and people stay engaged. I think that's important. And that's when people see me in the community. The reason why I'm there is to learn. I usually don't speak the first time because I want to take it in basically. And I'm not here to nitpick the issue or address the issue. I want to learn it, and then I go talk with people that are important and say, "Hey, how do we address this issue? What do you think about it?" And I want to work together, no matter what I say, political party affiliations. Let's all come together and work.
More bipartisanship.
And work together, basically. Don't be like the federal government. Let's be Southfield, let's be Greenport, let's be the North Fork, where we come together and put our party differences and put them away and say, you know what, I'm here to represent the people and I'm going to do what needs to be done. And that's what I would like to see from our government, and that's what I like seeing from our government on the North Fork. And once the election is over, everything's put on the shelf, everything's put away, we all work together. And that's what I like, basically.
And you said it for getting younger people. How can we get more younger people like you involved in going to meetings and involved in government? Because it's great that you're doing this.
So for me, what attracts me is an issue that's important to me. Like on the North Fork, young people, what do they love? A lot of the young people love skating. What are we doing with skating in the village of Greenport? Like, what are we doing with the skate park? Like, what can we do? I think, if we do something for them and we address one of their issues, they'll come to our meetings, honestly. I think that it's about government servicing them because they are our future of our government. They're the next generation, president, Congress, elected officials. So, and to me, that's what I'm starting to look into that and working with the Rotary Club. I'm glad to see the mini train is back behind Moore's-Lane. I'm looking forward to being more operational and people and kids. And I used to go when I used to live. When I lived where I live, it used to be on 3rd Street behind. You go all the way down to the left, and it was a nice area basically. I love going to church on a Sunday with my mom and my sisters, and I love that. great opportunity with family events. And that's the one thing about the North Fork. We're all a family, basically.
I want to thank you for coming on today, and thank you for all you're doing in the community and your involvement and staying engaged. And I wish you the best of luck on your endeavors in the future with everything you're doing on the North Fork.
Thank you so much, sir. It's great to be on, and I'm looking forward to the future. And anybody who knows me, you have an issue, whatever it is, I'm here to listen. You got an idea? Let's work together, because this is not about me, it's about the community. And that's what I would like to see.
So I hope you all enjoyed episode 8 with Chris North. Thank you again for listening to the Floyd Memorial Library podcast, and we'll see you next week.